Hey everyone, Tony Phelan here, and today I'd like to talk about a new project I have going on, my road to the TCS. Basically what I'll be doing is taking a stock out of the box Tamiya TA07 Pro, adding some aftermarket Tamiya hop-ups to it, a little tuning, a little tweaking, and building a progression of speed to the Tamiya Championship Series that's coming up here in a couple months. So let's get to the box of parts and see what Fred from Tamiya has sent over for this car. So I got a large box of parts in, basically all of the hop-ups for the Tamiya TA07 Pro. Let's just give them a quick look and see what we got here. First thing we got is the TA07 carbon reinforced deck. It is actually a plastic deck, but it has carbon infused into the plastic to keep it a lot more rigid than the stock chassis. The stock chassis has a lot of flex in the back end, which builds traction, but it also takes away from the handling. So this deck here will stiffen up the chassis and let the suspension do more of the work and less of the flex. So that's probably one part I'll end up using for sure. The next is carbon reinforced K parts, the chassis stiffeners. There's a couple chassis stiffeners in here. Looks like the steering stiffener. So another set of basically the same thing. Now you can use the carbon parts with the plastic chassis to help tune the flex in the front and back of the car. But most likely I'll be using all of the carbon parts to really kind of tighten up the suspension, or tighten up the chassis so the suspension does the work. Okay, we have carbon reinforced parts A, and this looks like bulkheads and maybe some wheel hexes. I don't know how much of these I'm going to use. These don't really do a whole lot. Maybe the bulkheads, the carbon bulkheads, might do a little bit. We'll see what I use on that. I'm not sure what I'll use on that. Then an extra set of wheels, different wheels. Wheels aren't going to make that much of a difference. All right, let's just do this. All right, so first of the aluminum parts is the aluminum servo mount. We will most likely be using this. This actually uses what's called a floating servo mount. There's only, you can kind of see the servo mount, there's only one side that's attached to the chassis. This allows a single contact point for the servo, excuse me, single contact point for the servo. So as the servo flexes, as the chassis flexes, the servo will stay set. It actually adds a much more consistent flex across side to side across the chassis. So I'll most likely be using that. We have an aluminum center pulley, an 18-tooth aluminum center pulley. I don't know that there's a huge advantage over these over the plastic ones, other than the fact that under heavy load, the aluminum ones will probably grip the belt better and probably spin freer. It comes with ball bearings, so maybe something else we'll be using. Carbon front steering blocks, definitely be using these. Any place that you can remove flex from the steering system, from the chassis, and just let the shocks do the work on a track like Tamiya's track is definitely beneficial. There are times on looser tracks where you'll want maybe some chassis flex to help the traction, but not at Tamiya. So again, carbon parts, most likely be using all of these carbon parts. I've got two of these. So the other, oh, this is not the same thing. Let me see if I can find the other one. Hold on one second. Well, we'll go with these. Carbon suspension arms, definitely be using these. As your suspension arm goes up, there's a shock attached to it. As the suspension arm goes up, that shock absorbs some of the pressure. If you have a suspension arm that's made out of a softer plastic, that plastic will tend to bend a little bit, and as your shock is absorbing. And typically the shock is on one end, so as it goes up, like as the shock goes up, it also bends like this. You get a weird, like, inconsistent handling effect. Carbon arms basically eliminate all that. It just lets the shock move up and down and do all the damping. So these will definitely be used. Looks like I got another pulley here. It's the aluminum counter pulley. I'll be using the aluminum counter pulley. Let's see what else we have. Aluminum clamp wheel hexes. Now, these will basically replace the plastic ones. Again, we're not looking at much of a huge benefit from these. They are aluminum. They do come with a clamping design. So it's a little bit better than just pushing the wheel hex on and holding it on there with the tire. These will never fall off. I will be using those. We have carbon reinforced hub carriers. These are basically, I think 4-degree hub carriers. 4-degree hub carriers, 4-degree caster. These will definitely be used too. They'll reduce a lot of flex. More steering arms. Or did I already put those up? No, I got 2 sets of the steering arms. That's good. Steering arms are typically the first part to break when you hit something. All right, so what else we got in here? We got a front direct coupling. This is basically a spool. If you're unfamiliar with the spool, you can go to CompetitionX.com and go to the tuning section, and we discuss diffs, one-ways, and spools. But basically what this does is remove any diff action in the front end of the car. This is great for, it really helps pull a car out of a corner when you remove the diff action. So this is a definite, I will definitely be using that. All right, let's see what else we got here. We also have, I'll just grab all these right now. Should be one more. Oh no, there's not, okay. Aluminum arm mounts. The aluminum arm mounts also come with these. This comes with plastic arm mounts. The plastic arm mounts are okay. They do have a little bit of flex in them. Basically what the aluminum ones do is they're solid. They come in different tuning, different toe-in or anti-squat kind of heights. They're all milled differently for different heights to help tune the car. These come with, I don't know if you can see these, but they come with these little balls, and the balls set on the ends of the hinge pins and then into the arm mounts. So it's a much smoother action. Obviously there's 4 arm mounts. There's one in the front of the front arms, one in the back of the front arms, one in the front of the rear arms, one in the back of the rear arms. I'm not sure which one it is. I'd have to look at the car, but you get 3 of the solid arm mounts, and then you get 1 split. They all use, though, the fluorine-coated suspension balls, so I will be using these for sure. Then we got aluminum motor mount posts. The motor mount that comes with this is already aluminum. It's a long aluminum one that can be shifted. If you're familiar with the TA07, it can be used in the back position, middle position, front position, and it uses plastic mounts that mount from the aluminum mount to the chassis. Again, you're looking at plastic, you're looking at a little bit of flex, and so we're going to be putting some aluminum ones on there to reduce that flex, especially if we're hooked to the carbon chassis, and these will also help dissipate heat just a little bit more than the plastic ones. All right, we have front and rear carbon shock towers. These are definitely going to be helpful because they reduce all flex in the front and rear of the shock tower area of the TA07. They're also have they have more adjustment holes to lay the shocks down. Definitely a part you're gonna want to look at if you're upgrading your TA07 Pro. Let's see, aluminum motor mount. This is for a different project. Sorry. Okay. What do we got here? Oh, we have another set of split suspension arm mounts. Throw those in the pile. Okay, all right, so then we also have the aluminum steering arms, bell crank arms, and the aluminum steering bridge. The plastic works fine, it's bearing supported, but you'll get a much, there is when you're turning, especially when the tires hit the lock, you'll get a little flex. So you'll get a little bit of kind of that bump feel. These will remove all that and will most likely give the car a much more nimble feel, a much more direct feel with aluminum parts, and these are bearing supported. They come with bearings in them, so already pressed in. So cool parts right there. A carbon bumper support. One of these pieces you probably don't need. It really doesn't do anything. Basically what it is you have the under part of the bumper, you have the foam pad bumper, and then you got a piece on top that kind of keeps everything, squishes everything together. The plastic piece will work fine. This is kind of one of those bling parts, but it is kind of cool to look on your car. It gives it a little more factory look. I'll be adding that. Okay, we have the double cardan joint shafts. These are front drive shafts. And if you're familiar with universals or dog bones, as the tires turn, the dog bones, as the cup turns, the dog bone rotates in the cup. It has little pins that stick out of the dog bone. Those work good, but at times you can overextend it. You can pop a dog bone out. The little pins will catch the the axle and break the axle. These provide excellent drive at no matter what angle the front steering is. So if you're looking at something that's going to provide a little bit smoother drive forward while the wheels are turned, definitely check these out. Gear differential unit aluminum diff joints. You're thinking, well, they're just aluminum diff joints, what's the deal? These are much lighter. For the rear diff, these are much lighter than the stock ones. So you're reducing a little bit of rotating mass within the rear diff, and that'll actually lighten the drivetrain up a little bit. So get a little bit of speed boost. Center shaft bridge. What this does is the TA07 has kind of a large motor mount, and it's a single belt drive car. So you have a spur gear, and you have these pulleys that kind of serpentine the belt around so that you can serpentine the belt to the front and the rear. The problem is that it's a single point attachment. There's the plate, there's a pin, there's your gear. So what happens is under heavy loads, those gears could have a little bit of twist in them, and you can get belt skip. Not necessarily in 17.5, but if you run it maybe 13.5, you could potentially have a little bit of belt skip, or even a gear, the gear mesh could come loose a little bit. What this does is actually adds a second mount point on the outside and pins all those things together. So they're double mount, they're double connected, on both sides, and there's going to be no flex, no slip, no nothing. So definitely a piece to look at if you're going to be running a little bit, maybe. Again, I don't think it's going to be a problem in 17.5, but 13.5, a lot of guys are running this car in 13.5, that could potentially be an issue. All right, and the final part is the TRF 418 stabilizer set. Anti-roll bars, huge. If there's anything you're going to get for this car that you want to help make this car perform, anti-roll bars. What they do is they connect each side of the arms together. So as one arm goes up, that bar kind of provides a little bit of tension and helps keep the car flat. So you're not getting a lot of roll. It prevents roll basically. And roll is good for tracks that you need the traction, but for higher bite tracks, you definitely want an anti-roll bar to help kind of keep that car flat so it quarters faster. All right, well, there you have it. A whole slew of Tamiya aftermarket goodies waiting to be put on my TA07 Pro. Now, I'm not sure what the final outcome will be when I hit the TCS race. It's going to be dependent on what works and what doesn't. Most likely, though, right off the bat, I'll be putting the carbon arms, C-hubs, and steering arms on, the anti-roll bars, and definitely the front spool. Those are parts that I think the car needs right now to just up the game a little bit more. So thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for more videos in this series, My Road to the TCS. And if you haven't yet, please click that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.